This movie's terrible. This movie is a huge step down from how great 28 Days Later is. We just talked about 28 days later. Now we are talking about 28 weeks later. And later on this week, we will have a review of 28 years later. We wanted to go back and revisit the previous two films to see how did we get here? And this is a very, very different movie from 28 Days Later. Alonso, what happens here?
It's also very different from the Sandra Bullock movie 28 Days, but that's a whole other story.
It's amazing. Are you going to tell us what happened to Mum?
Yeah, so neither Alex Garland nor Danny Boyle are back for this one. It's directed by the Spanish filmmaker Juan Carlos Fresnadillo and written by Rowan Joffe and Fresnadillo and Enrique Lopez Levine. And yeah, it's 6 months later, and a whole bunch of people whose movie careers are about to take off are dealing with what they think is a contained epidemic. We begin in media res with Robert Carlyle and his wife, played by
Catherine McCormick.
Catherine McCormick, thank you, from Braveheart, and a group of survivors who have barricaded themselves inside of a farmhouse. Everything seems like it's going well, but I don't know. They let a kid in, and then somebody else peeks through the slats, and it's just a disaster. And it leads to, as what we were calling it, Dave referred to as a force majeure moment, where Robert Carlyle, rather than stick around to save his wife, hightails it out of there. Cut to months later, he is now, as one of the few survivors in the UK, has been put to work in an army base that has been set up on the Isle of Dogs, not the Wes Anderson one. And his two kids, who have been overseas, finally get to return home. They are played by Imogen Poots and Macintosh Muggleton. He's thrilled to have them back. Tells them that their mother died, that he saw her die.
That he saw her get bitten.
So they saw her get bitten. There was nothing he could do to save her. And so they decide the kids decide they're going to sneak into London to get some stuff from their house and then sneak back. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, well, everything, as it turns out. Along the way, we have sympathetic military guys played by Jeremy Renner and Harold Perrineau. We have a very no-nonsense commanding officer played by Idris Elba. And we have Rose Byrne as the medical coordinator who is not ready to have kids show up in her little quarantine. And none of them are ready for what the kids managed to unlock, including the fact that their mother is not dead after all, which means that dad has some splaining to do. And the mom, it turns out, is not unlike Ellie on The Last of Us, immune, but in this case, a carrier.
Yeah, the way they show that with her eyes, it's just a trip. It's so unsettling and all that. This movie's terrible. This movie is a huge step down from how great 28 Days Later is. And maybe anything would be, but this is especially so. In terms of, from the very beginning, it's all this shaky cam. It's all this editing that is not at all intuitive, like weird cutaways to stuff in the middle of an action sequence. Like the way the action is cut, like is so hard to follow. Like, wait a minute, where are we now? And I found that I don't know if it meant to be unsettling in that regard, but it's distracting. It is distancing, and I never got into it. It's like headache inducing, a lot of strobe stuff, a lot of shaky cam. So I kind of hate how this is made. I read a little bit about this afterward, and apparently Danny Boyle directed some of this early stuff.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Well, so apparently he's involved. He and Garland are producers on this. But,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about how in 28 Days Later, like there's some lighting that now feels very of that moment in terms of digital technology. And the shaky cam, I'd say, also is very 2007. It's very like post Black Hawk Down, kind of thing. I don't think this movie's terrible. I think maybe you wouldn't think this was terrible if it didn't have 28 in the title. I think it's an okay run-of-the-mill zombie movie, but it is a shitty sequel. I'll give you that. It definitely is it's coming down from that first one, but I think there's some effective stuff in it. I think they build some cool tension. There are some set pieces, again, involving don't go in the tunnel, that land pretty well. And I think the performances are committed to the bit. So, I don't hate this movie, but it definitely, I could see where if you were seeing this in 2007 thinking, oh, it's a sequel to 28 Days Later, you'd be like, oh, what is this? But I'd say divorced from its much better predecessor, it's okay.
I don't even know that it's okay. And part of the problem is that there's nothing to these characters. You say that they're all committed to the bit, and the cast is incredible. Like, as you say, everyone's about to explode. The next year is going to be The Hurt Locker, and that's going to make Jeremy Renner a superstar. We have like 18-year-old Imogen Poots here. Rose Byrne's not a giant star yet. And so, Robert Carlyle, of course, had been around for a bit. He was in Trainspotting.
Already, yeah.
But yeah, like, I wish there were more to these characters so that we could care about them in a way that we do about the ones in 28 Days Later. We were saying in our review of that he does a really efficient job of like showing us, not telling us who they are in terms of how they react to the world around them, how they navigate different obstacles. And these all feel like maybe they have one trait or another, but for the most part, they're pretty empty, pretty cardboard. And the thing that is the big showdown climactic set piece at the end through the infrared scope, I just found kind of like dizzying and disorienting and couldn't get my bearings in it enough to feel invested and care about, are they stepping over bodies? Are they going to find each other? So
I at least sort of admired the fact that they were willing to go this hard with it in terms of like, oh, shoot everyone, just shoot everyone. And that makes Jeremy Renner's character have like a crisis of conscience. And so like, it felt like it was maybe sort of at least flirting with some ideas about militarism and about containment and different things like that. But yeah, none of it as remotely as successfully as the film that came before it, obviously.
Yeah. And I wish they had drawn out that tension of the disparity between what Robert Carlyle tells his kids, and then like what ends up happening once he sees like, oh, hi, honey, you're alive. What a relief. I feel like they could have mined that for more tension, more awkward intensity. And I like what she does to him. That's kind of fun. But then that, of course,
destroys the planet.
Sets the whole world on fire again. I thought that the last shot was kind of effective, though. When you see them coming out of the metro in Paris and like, there's the Eiffel Tower, should be romantic and dreamy, this iconic image. But no, now the infection has made its way to Europe.
That's what you get for building a channel.
Yeah, right? If only there were no channel, it'll be okay. Also, that is not Wembley Stadium, but the end apparently it's some stadium in Cardiff, Wales. Wembley, it says Wembley across the seats, but that's not really Wembley.
Okay.
Those of you who like to follow locations.
I was like Ted Lasso, no.
Yeah. So yeah, this was kind of terrible, and it gave me a headache, and it bummed me out. I realized. So you hadn't seen 28 Days Later. I hadn't seen 28 Weeks Later. I thought I had, but I hadn't.
I think I did. I have a memory of going to see it, but I didn't. Well, as I was watching, I was like, I don't remember any of this. I don't remember who's in it. So maybe I didn't. I don't know. Maybe it just didn't stick with me, but we've seen it now.
We have. Also, I want to talk about the score real fast, because the score is so effective in the way they use it in the first one. That's kind of like this rock score that like builds and builds. And that choice to make it rock is so inspired and so different. They use it here as well. They drop it in here as well, but not at points of building tension. Like they smother the very end of it, like aerial shots of London with da da da. And I'm like, why now? Why now? It's not useful now.
You had your chance.
I do hope they use it again in the third one. I don't know if they do, but I hope they do. So we're seeing it later on tonight.
Yeah. So the fact that this one was, not a Boyle and Garland, and then it's been, 18 years since we've had one of these, I think speaks to them realizing what works and what doesn't. So fingers crossed, we'll find out, and we'll have a review for you later in the week. Thanks for watching.